Hi, I'm Wenxuan. In this data visualization project, we'll explore how various factors influence salaries and whether a gender pay gap remains after accounting for them. Let's begin with an overview of the dataset. The dataset contains around 6,700 employee records, including their gender, education level, years of experience, and annual salary. Using this data, we can examine how these factors interact to shape salary outcomes. We'll start with the first question. How does education level affect salary? First, let's see the composition of the workforce. Most employees hold a bachelor's or master's degree, while relatively few are only a high school graduate or a PhD. Now that we know the data are mostly degree holders, let's see how salaries are distributed. This histogram displays the overall salary distribution for all employees. Most salaries cluster around 115,000, with a long right tail KDE curve, meaning a few individuals earn substantially more. Next, let's examine how education influences that distribution. When we separate salaries by education, the pattern becomes clear. Median salaries rise steadily from high school to PhD, and the spread widens at higher degrees. This means higher education not only leads to higher pay, but also to greater variability in earnings. Let's summarize this relationship with a clearer trend view. Here, the median salary increases from about 30,000 for high school graduates to nearly 170,000 for PhD holders. In short, higher education consistently leads to higher income. But education isn't the only factor. Experience also plays a major role in determining pay, which brings us to our next question. Does more experience always mean higher pay? Before exploring how experience affects salary, let's look at how it's distributed. Most employees have fewer than 10 years of experience, with a median around 7 years, suggesting a relatively young workforce. When we compare salary against years of experience, broken down by education level, the relationship becomes clearer. Across all levels, salaries rise with experience, but the rate of increase differs. PhD holders start with higher pay, but their growth slows, while bachelor graduates start lower but grow faster. This tells us that experience drives salary growth, though education still defines the overall earning potential. Now that we have looked at education and experience, it's time to look into gender. The dataset is 54.8% male, 45% female, and 0.2% categorized as others. For meaningful comparison, we will focus on only the male and female groups. When we compare the salary distributions by gender, we can clearly see that male salaries are generally higher. The median male salary is about 120,000 compared to 105,000 for females. Male salaries also show greater variability and higher upper limits, suggesting that men are more represented in the top earning positions. So yes, a gender pay gap exists in this dataset. But is this gap simply because of differences in education or experience? Here we control for experience. Each point represents an employee, and the two regression lines show salary trends for males and females. Both lines rise with years of experience, yet the male line remains consistently higher than females, showing that males earn slightly more than females even with similar years of experience. To make the gap between the two lines clearer, I have zoomed in on the y-axis range, so do note that the zero base is not adopted in this diagram. Now, what happens when we also consider education level at the same time? This faceted chart breaks the same relationship down by education level. Across all panels, the male regression lines generally remain above the female lines, showing that men tend to earn more than women even at similar experience levels. However, the pattern varies. For instance, among PhD holders, the gap actually widens with experience, as male salaries continue to rise faster than female salaries. Overall, while education increases salary for both genders, it does not fully close the pay gap. Here, each box represents the salary range for males and females within the same education group. We can see that the median lines for males are consistently higher than those for females, again confirming the pay gap across all education levels. To wrap up, this project tells a consistent story. Education plays a key role in boosting salaries, and experience adds further growth. Yet, even after accounting for these two factors, gender pay gap clearly remains. Thank you very much.